So think of this as part two. Earlier, we talked about epigenetics and also being the proxy of the lineage. And as we said about the proxy, they can feel more responsible and also that they are to help clear the lineage, the line, right? So now I want to go into a little bit more information related to how this is happening within science. And I want to share some studies with you that have been out there for some time. And about maybe the last 10, 15 years, we didn't have a whole lot of information, but now we can actually quantify this, and it's so exciting to think about. So one of the things I want to share with you is about some of the famine studies of World War I and World War II. And what we found is that within those individuals that were having to be within that environment, they didn't have enough food. And so basically what their body did in order to try to pass on what we would call like survival genes is that it passed down the message of hold on to your glucose pants for everything that you can, right? So what happened was basically they passed on this information of trying to protect the lineage. And so it was around these glucose receptors. Well, you could imagine that could have been helpful if we were still in famine times because it was trying to protect the lineage. But now in our actual environment, we have way too much food and even foods that we shouldn't be eating. And so the body can't quite accommodate that. So what we're seeing is people having a harder time with glucose regulation and higher rates of diabetes and prediabetes. So that's one example. Another example within the research is that we also see within those who were actually prisoners of war or POWs. And we saw that it actually changed the telomeres or the caps at the end of our chromosomes. Now, why is that important? Well, the caps at the end of the chromosome basically tell us a lot about health and also vitality and also longevity. And so those actual imprints were actually passed on to their lineage as well. It's kind of fascinating to think about. We also know from the Holocaust that we saw significant changes within the DNA and that those lineage imprints were passed on to even their grandchildren. And so we could see this not just around things like glucose receptors and even the aging process like we saw with some of the POW studies, but we also saw that within their neurotransmitters and also their hormones. And so what we have found is that even with those hormones and neurotransmitters, that it was changing the expression. And that makes a big difference because that can actually lead to diseases of many different kinds. We also want to think about with the Holocaust, there are a lot of studies around the Holocaust where people were having the same dreams as their parents and grandparents who had never been privy to that information. And so there are these signs and imprints that are actually being imprinted and passed down, whether it be through a dream state or actually through the DNA that we're passing on. And then we also have seen some of this around the Khmer Rouge and also Cambodia, and also in certain areas of like the Tutsi area in Rwanda of some of the things that were happening there. So stay tuned. If you're interested in learning more about this, feel free to subscribe to my channel, but I'm so excited to share some more research that's coming down the pike. Stay tuned.